We're back for your ears only. I'm Melissa Exelberth.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. This is a good endorsement, but it's no silver bullet. That was Michael Mayo, a bank analyst with Crédit Agricole in New York, on billionaire Warren Buffett's announced investment of $5 million in troubled Bank of America. And Wall Street rallied after Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke predicted long-term growth with no mention of new economic stimulus, but rather calls for a more cooperative political approach to the federal budget and deficit. Now this.
Everybody enjoyed watching me and John for so many years. They know what we did for tennis, what kind of rivalry we had, what kind of matches we played against each other in the past.
We made a great yin and yang when we were out there. The way we played was different, the way we acted, the way we looked, but there was something about it that was just connected beautifully. And I always wish we had done it more often.
Time heals everything, they say, and perhaps the most timely case in point this weekend on the eve of the 2011 U.S. Tennis Open features the Swedish champion Bjorn Borg, who we heard speaking first in that clip from ATPChampionstour.com, and the man who beat him at the Open 30 years ago, New Yorker John McEnroe.
The story of that historic match, the ball-smashing confrontations that preceded it, and the way the two men, so opposite in so many ways, both caused and reflected changing times on and off the court, is told in a new book by Stephen Tignor. He's executive editor at Tennis Magazine and a daily blogger at tennis.com. His book is High Strung, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, and the untold story of the tennis's fiercest rivalry. And to talk about it and this year's Open for your ears only, Stephen Tignor joins us now. Welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me.
First, remind us how famous Borg was in the years leading up to that historic Open final. His icy style and the Borgasms he triggered.
Yeah, I think Borg. People forget what a huge star he was, international star. He was, for a time, the biggest sports star in the world. He was along the lines of what Tiger Woods was maybe 5 or 10 years ago. He was the highest paid athlete in the world and the first real tennis superstar. So when he walked away from the game in '81, that was a bigger deal than maybe people realize looking back. A big part of tennis went with him.
And for those who know John McEnroe now as perhaps the most insightful tennis analyst on TV, remind us of his youthful style and the public reaction.
Yeah, McEnroe was a lightning rod right from the beginning. A real artist with a racket, but at the same time, a tortured artist, a real hothead on the court. He was really one of the first players to he argued with armchair umpires. He really let everybody know what he was thinking all the time. He even would indicate when he was choking. He would grab his throat when he was choking. And in 1981, at Wimbledon in 1981, he completely exploded through that tournament, was almost kicked out of the event. And he became, he went beyond the sports pages at that point. Everybody had to have an opinion on John McEnroe. He sort of represented, I think, for some people, thought a sort of a beginning of a represented a permissive society that had, sort of a post-60s society that had come to tennis and come to sports. And everyone sort of, people beyond tennis were talking about John McEnroe.
Was it a true lack of control or something of an act?
Not something of an act. It was a true lack of control, I think. One thing I think was true with McEnroe is he didn't really believe many other people belonged on a court with him. He thought he should win every match. Bjorn Borg was an exception to that, and because of that, McEnroe never really acted out when he played Borg. But he did act out against players he thought he should beat, and if he wasn't beating, that would enrage him. But from what I can gather, and I believe it was not an act, and it still isn't an act.
You talked about McEnroe's obvious confidence, or at least apparent confidence, but Borg once walked out of a room when someone suggested his upcoming match should be easy.
Yeah, Borg, he kept all of his nerve. At the time, people thought he was completely calm. He was the ice Borg. Nothing bothered him. He was seen as a sort of paragon of the gentleman's game. But really, there was a lot more going on inside of him. He described himself when he was a young player as a madman. He was like a McEnroe-like figure when he was a junior, but he buried all of that. And he would tell people after matches, well, I was so nervous I could barely hold the racket, but nobody believed him. That wore on him over the years.
He was superstitious about a lot of things he did, the way he approached and got ready for matches. It was also, you write, a family trait. Talk about his mother, her candy ritual, and how far she took it once when her son was in trouble.
Yeah, it was the final of the 1979 Wimbledon. She used to like to chew on candy or gum when Borg was playing his matches, just because she thought it was good luck. He had won a match another time when she'd done that. So she was sitting in the player's box at Wimbledon, chewing on a piece of candy for the entire 5-set, nearly 4-hour match that Borg played with Roscoe Tanner. Borg got up 5-4 in the 5th set, 40-love, 3 match points. So she thought she was safe, so she spit it out on the floor. Borg then lost the next 3 points to get back to deuce, so she reached down, picked it up off the floor, put it back in her mouth, and he won the next 2 points. So obviously she was doing something right.
Despite their differences, you say both men marked the end of an older classic era in tennis.
Yeah, that was also right at that point when the game was going from wood rackets to bigger, more powerful graphite rackets, and the style of play was changing. Borg and McEnroe really had contrasting styles, a baseliner and a serve and volleyer, and you don't see that. That would slowly leave the sport after they were done. Now it's all from the baseline. It's all almost played the way Borg did. But McEnroe was the last man to win the U.S. Open with the wood racket in 1981 in that final match with Borg. So that sort of marked the end of that playing style. At that point.
It was also the end of the truly amateur era, the rise of the professionals, all those sponsor logos and megabucks.
Yeah, tennis had been completely amateur, complete country club game all the way until 1968, which is hard to believe now. No player had been paid to play at Wimbledon or the U.S. Open or any of the big tournaments until 68. Then money just flooded into the sport in the 70s. It became almost took its place alongside baseball, football, and basketball. That was its ambition in the 70s. And Borg and McEnroe were really two of the first beneficiaries and also victims of that. Borg was a client of IMG, one of the first clients of the huge agency IMG. He was, they just ran him ragged all over the world, playing tournaments and exhibitions all constantly. And McEnroe eventually did the same thing, and partially because of that, they burned out early. Neither of them won Grand Slams after the age of 25.
Stephen Tignor is executive editor of Tennis Magazine and a daily blogger at tennis.com. His book is High Strung, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, and the Untold Story of Tennis's Fiercest Rivalry, from Harper.
Next, See or No, our look at recent film releases for your ears only.